because I refuse to not be first.
Do we do enough? Well, I never shut up about it.
It must have been about 16, 17. We nicked their guilt rings. Right, the bouncer's guilt ring.
This is no good for me. That's the reality. If you want the honest truth, and I see it every day.
Welcome to episode 6 of Talking Smart. No, it's 5 of Joe, is it?
I don't know. I'm losing count.
I'll
They
figure
keep
it out, I'll
rolling
figure it
around.
out.
Every Sunday keeps rolling around very quick,
I know, man. They're coming thick and fast. But anyway, Talk Smart with Pugh McCart. That's young Joe over there, Joe Pugh, and I'm Andrew McCart. Joe, it's been a quiet week in the boxing scene in terms of fights. We had Berlanga last night against Jason Quigley, which we'll talk about. But there has been news. Like we said last week, there's always something happening in boxing. It's just not about the fights. It's the business side of things, which we like to talk about as well. But we'll talk about the fight last night in Edgar Berlanga and Jason Quigley. Your thoughts on that one, young man?
I think for Edgar, obviously his first fight under the Matchroom banner, a big deal coming out of it. And we know how tough Jason Quigley is now working with Andy Lee. And it was a good opportunity to see where Edgar Berlanga was at. Edgar Berlanga, his first 16 fights ended by first round stoppage, which built up a massive hype around Edgar. I know a lot of people mentioned his name with Canelo's in the week, and I think that's a step too far right now. But as far as performances goes, I think I saw an interview with Eddie Hearn where he said he kind of switched off on that late part of the fight, but then put it back on at round 12. And I think in parts of that fight, he showed some real talent, quite nasty. He can be really nasty in there. He's got that power, but it's about staying switched on the whole time, hunting his opponent down. But I think it was round 2 and 12 where he looked really good. If he can look like that for 12 rounds, then I think we have got a special talent on our hands.
And he does pack a punch. Like you said, the first 16 fights of his career, he got first round knockdowns, knockouts. Even he was really knocking everybody out, and and he's knocked everyone down as well. So he does pack a punch. So yeah, and again, that's middleweight division that he's in is one of them divisions which has always been an exciting division. Man, you can go back to the old days with the Nigel Benns and Joe Calzaghes and the Eubanks over here in the UK, but out in the US with Roy Jones Jr. and all them guys, and Lights Out Tony and all them, James Tony. So it's always been a division which has been stacked with talent, and it's always been a fun division to watch as fans. And Edgar Berlanga, who's very, very young, who packs a punch, he's always going to be an exciting fight. So yeah, you said Jason Quigley, man. Wow, what a tough man. He kept on getting up in that 12th round. I thought it could have been easy for him just to stay down, but he got up again and he finished the round, which deservedly so. He deserved to see the 12th bell there, and fair play to him. But Edgar Berlanga, what a fighter. Bear in mind, he was a year out the ring. Was it just over a year out the ring or whatever it was? So fair play to him. He headlined his first Matchroom debut as well at the Garden. For a young man, that's an achievement in itself. So fair play and an exciting prospect to watch. But I'm going to do a segue from this because you mentioned Canelo for Berlanga. That was sort of like maybe it was talked about, but the news coming out of Canelo signing a 3-fight deal with PBC obviously has changed that dynamic. It's changed that sort of narrative right quick, because now it seems that Canelo is going to be fighting Charlo September 16th, Mexican Independence Day. I didn't see it coming. I thought Eddie and Canelo had a great relationship, which they still do. But I just think that Eddie Hearn has run out of fighters for Canelo, and that's probably the reason why Canelo has jumped to a 3-fight deal with PBC.
Yeah, Eddie Hearn said it himself. He said that I think it's 6 out of his last 7 fights he's done with Eddie, all of his fights apart from the Caleb Plant fight, which was ultimately the undisputed fight for super middleweight. So I don't think they've left on bad terms. They probably will work together once again, maybe in 18 months, 2 years, when he's had these 3 fights, if it is believed to be a 3-fight deal with PBC. He might come back, and Edgar Berlanga's kind of got some bigger names on his record, like your likes of maybe a John Ryder, maybe a Jaime Munguia, and he's ready to fight Canelo, and he probably will come back to Matchroom. But it did kind of come out of nowhere, the Charlo fight. I was shocked. I thought if he was going over to PBC, I thought it'd be more likely the David Benavidez fight, which was spoken about. I'm assuming that is another name on this 3-fight deal, because I think that's a huge fight. That two Mexicans going at it. That I think is the fight. But Charlo, really excited for. I think he brings something to the table which a lot of opponents in certainly recent years haven't brought to the table. Very, very different, very, very tricky, very, very slick. And I think it's a really, really interesting fight for Canelo.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that maybe Canelo is at this stage of his career where he's business minded and he's almost like that Floyd Mayweather. I'll pick them, I'll find out where they are in their career and I'll pick them to fight them now. There's no real harm in that, but you want to see prime against prime. Now, Charlo is sort of like in his prime, but he has been out the ring. But if they do fight on September 16th, he would have been out the ring for probably 15, 16 months. We all know that he's had personal problems and injuries and whatnot. So Canelo's probably thinking in his mind, probably the right time to get to Charlo. I mean, Charlo does get hit. Do you know what I mean? And I think Canelo's probably looking at that. If I get Charlo, which is a good name, it's a fight that some fans have asked for. But like you said, the fight that we all want to see is Canelo Benavidez. Now, the scenario I would like to see, Joe, is Charlo fight, beat Charlo. It's going to be a tough fight, definitely tough fight to go in there and beat somebody like Charlo. But if somebody can make Canelo versus Benavidez, right, it has to be PBC. They made Tank Davis, Ryan Garcia. They've made Spence versus Crawford in July 29th. If any sort of promotional company outfit that can get a big fight like that over the line, I think it is PBC. Now, Canelo versus David Benavidez, Cinco de Mayo next year. Come on, does it get any bigger than that?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't, mate. I think it's such a great fight. It's so intriguing just because David Benavidez, I think he's lost his world title on the scales a couple of times. But I just think he is so different to all of Canelo's fighters. He's such a big man. And again, it is the names, it's the crowds they bring. And spectacle-wise, I don't think it will get much bigger. I know earlier on in the year when we saw John Ryder versus Canelo, where it was in Mexico, it was just amazing to see. But I think this one could be one bigger and one better.
Exactly that. Now, I'm going to say something, right? See if it's a 3-fight deal, right? This is sort of like what I would like to see, Joe.
Yeah.
Charlo, Benavidez, then he'll have one more fight with PBC. Now, Errol Spence and Crawford, they're fighting in July, right? Whatever happens in that fight, they'll probably get a rematch clause in there. There is a rematch clause in there, so they'll probably rematch each other. If they rematch each other in the December or January, maybe even February of 2024. Now, the third fight, let me throw this at you, a wee curveball. Errol Spence versus Canelo. Errol Spence has mentioned Canelo. Errol Spence walks around 180, 190. That's why he boiled right down to welterweight. He said that he would like to fight Canelo. It's a great fight in itself as well with PBC. Can you see that happening? A third fight against somebody like Errol Spence after he's had them 2 fights with Crawford?
Honestly, no. I cannot see that happening. I'll be honest, mate. I'll be honest. It's a crazy one. It is a crazy one. I didn't know where you were going with this until you said it. They're welterweights. I can't see him going up to super middle. Maybe if it was a bit earlier on in Canelo's career when he was boiling down to 154, maybe even 160. But I can't see Errol Spence moving up to super middleweight, really. But we've seen Canelo calling out the likes of Usyk in the past, who is current heavyweight champion in the world. The weight difference is probably less, but when the gap between Errol Spence and Canelo Usyk is probably a less of a weight difference, certainly at what Errol Spence walks around at. So it is certainly a dream fight, but I cannot see that happening if I'm being honest. But we can only dream and fantasize. If only weight divisions weren't a thing.
What about a catch weight at 165 then?
Will Canelo do that? I know you just said about kind of picking the right fights at the right times, at the right weights for the right money. Will he do that? I don't know. 165. It'd certainly be interesting, and it'd certainly put bums on seats. But I think what we've got to remember is what will be the outcome with Spence and Crawford as well. Because if Crawford goes into that off the back of 2 losses, I'm not saying it will be 2 losses, but worst case scenario for Errol Spence, is it still there? Is it still the big hype around the fight? I don't know. It'll be very, very interesting to see how the next kind of 2 fights for the both of them go. Because if he gets past Charlo, then he's got to get past Benavidez. And Benavidez is probably, I think, really at super middleweight, the toughest fight out there for Canelo. Especially Benavidez, who I believe is probably in his prime after that fantastic win last time out. So it's no foregone conclusions, but it will be very, very interesting to see who that 3rd fight is. And I wouldn't be surprised if we don't get a Benavidez rematch in there.
That's what I was going to say. Obviously, that was just a little curveball I threw you there. But I think, I think a Benavidez rematch will probably be the 3rd fight. Now, Canelo is a fighter, man. Look at his resume right now. He doesn't duck anybody. Now, he'll be paying attention to what's being said in the news and from fans on Twitter and whatnot, that we all want the Benavidez fight. We all want the Benavidez fight. And he's on that side of the street. He's on the PBC side of the street. Now, Canelo signed that deal, right? He's going to fight Charlo in September, it looks like. Probably the right time to get Charlo, like I said, because Charlo would have had, 15, 16 months out the ring before he steps through them ropes against Canelo. And then Cinco de Mayo, 2024, Canelo against Benavidez. I mean, for me, like I said to you, if PBC is the outfit that can get it done, like I said, because they made Tank Davis and Ryan Garcia, and they've made Spence Crawford. Now, it's a mega fight, and that is the mega fight we all want to see. And if a promotional outfit can get it done, it seems like it is PBC, like I said. So, and then the Benavidez rematch, win, lose, or draw for either man, is just going to be bigger and better. I mean, could you imagine them selling at one of them stadiums in Mexico that hold 100,000 people? That would be absolutely surreal. I was at Canelo's fight against Billy Joe at the Cowboy Stadium in Texas. That was 76,000, I think it was. And even, I know it's nothing like what Carl Froch has done at Wembley, but it was still up there. It was still an experience in itself to hear 70,000 plus Mexicans scream and shout was just a surreal moment. So again, like I said, Joe, boxing right now, I believe it's probably one of the better times right now, 2023, to be a fan, because we are getting the fights that we've all wanted this year, which has been insane. It's been good to see.
It has certainly been good to see. But I think, just segueing, I think the heavyweights need to take note of some of these lighter weight divisions. So if you look, just this week, we've seen that Sonny Edwards versus Bam's been signed. I'm sure we'll talk about that in due course. But what we're seeing with the heavyweights is a lot of talk about, obviously, this mega show in Saudi. Whether it happens, I don't know now, especially this year. There's been some shade over that this week. And then it just seems like there's a lot of talk and not a lot of substance and not a lot of pens to paper to be in fights at the minute. I think Dillian Whyte, as we understand, rejected a fight for Joshua and then went on, I think, either Sky or TalkSport, and then said, no, I accept the fight now for August, which I thought was very bizarre in itself. But I'd like to see one of the big names just have a fight we can get excited for, because it should be the heavyweights kind of leading up from the front, because it all starts with the heavyweights and filters down in boxing. So it is quite disappointing to hear that we might not get these big fights in the summer, and we might have to wait for December, and that's if they fight in December, remember. But yeah, what have you made of this heavyweight scenario and how it's unfolding this week, Adrian?
Well, that was just last week when I read that the WBC hadn't mandated anyone to fight Tyson Fury. Then there was talks about Ruiz and Wilder was off. It wasn't happening. And then there was obviously Dillian Whyte and Joshua. It wasn't happening. This was last week. Now, in my skeptical conspiracy theorist mind, I'm saying to myself, they ain't going to go through with this because the Saudi thing is happening in December. They don't want to jeopardize that, because if Joshua Wilder lose in August, either against White or Ruiz, and what does that do for the mega fight in Saudi Arabia? It probably doesn't have that that popping at that excitement that we get because one's coming off a loss. So they will be sort of like, we're stepping back a little bit and thinking maybe we can get a little warm up, a tune-up fight before we step in the ring in December against each other. But Dillian Whyte, he's came out this week on TalkSport, like you said. He said that he's willing to accept the offer for Joshua on August 12th. Now, August 12th is only 7 weeks away. Do you know what I mean? So something needs to get signed very, very quick, because it's August 12th is 7 weeks away and we're closing in. So will we see Dillian Whyte? Who knows? I read somewhere as well that Wilder has said to Andy Ruiz that time is up. Sign the contract. Your time is up, or something along them lines. I read. And then obviously Tyson Fury, he's been on his Instagram saying fight news coming soon, but the WBC haven't mandated anyone for him. So who will he fight? But the only fighter that's penciled in to fight in Saudi Arabia in December is Usyk, and he's got a fight already in August against Daniel Dubois, his mandatory. So I'm pretty sure that Tyson, Wilder, and Joshua, they're wanting to definitely get a fight in before, because, like I say, a year out the ring for any fighter isn't good for them. They need to keep active, keep sharpening them tools. But like I said, the landscape is changing all the time. We're going to wake up tomorrow morning, Joe, and there'll be another news story that Joshua will be fighting, I don't know, some guy, and then obviously Wilder will be fighting somebody, and then Tyson Fury is going to be fighting Jarrell Miller along them lines. Do you know what I mean? Because I know Jarrell Miller said that he's willing to fight Dillian Whyte or Joshua or anyone. So the landscape's changing all the time, Joe. But like I say, it is a funny one, and hopefully we can. Listen, the December thing happens. I'm more than happy to wait, because I think if you can get Usyk and Fury and Wilder and Joshua all on the same card in a mega fight, man, I'll wait to December. That's a great Christmas present for me as a boxing fan.
Yeah.
I'll be more than happy to wait. But I don't think the fighters and the promoters are wanting to go into that fight a year out the ring. They obviously want to go in there and sharpen them tools before they fight each other, which is understandable.
Yeah, and just before we jumped on here, actually, I was listening to Combs' interview with Frank Smith after the Berlanga fight last night, and Edgar
You jumped
Berlanga.
on here, Joe. You're fixing your hair. I've got text message to see.
Well, just before that, then.
I sent you the link to this, and you went, 1 minute, mate. I'm fixing my hair. I'm doing my hair.
Just before that, then. I think Caballero's name's being mentioned for August for Anthony Joshua, and he did say another name, which he wouldn't reveal, has entered the mix last minute, which I don't know who it could be. Otto Wiley was ruled out, so it'll be very interesting to see who that is. But I think Frank Smith has said that he believes Anthony Joshua will fight in August, but then Eddie Hearn said he's not sure if he'll fight in August. The thing that I just want to pick up on is, ever since Joshua lost to Usyk for the second time last year, the whole comeback arc for Joshua is, let's get active. 3 fights this year. Have one in January. Then we'll have one in June. June's now been moved to August. And then we'll have one in December. So I think to make sure the momentum builds with Anthony Joshua again, I think he's got to be active. And Caballero is what Caballero is. He hasn't had that massive fight yet.
Mm-hmm.
But if we can get some guarantee about Saudi, I am happy to wait. And I think a lot of fight fans will be, because everyone will just be looking forward to and salivating for that December night. But I think whether they fight in July, August, September, I think July's well out of the equation now. If they fight in the summer, or if they don't fight, I think we just want a guarantee that we know we are getting the Saudi Arabian night.
Mm-hmm. I think so. I think that's the thing where we're skeptical as boxing fans, aren't we? Because we have been let down before with contracts and this, that, and the next thing. So we are skeptical, and I think we do need that guarantee to say this is happening. And you could probably almost give the fighters a pass if they do take a little warm-up fight against an unknown heavyweight that you don't know of, just to keep sharpening them tools. But like you say, we need that guarantee. And I think that a Dillian Whyte versus Joshua, and even an Andrew Ruiz against a Wilder, like I don't expect Andrew Ruiz to beat Wilder because of obviously Wilder's size and that right hand. But look what Ruiz done to Joshua. So he's still a dangerous fighter. He's got fast hands. If he's taken that reach away from Wilder and got inside like he did to Joshua, and he's got them fast hands, we don't know like anything can happen at heavyweight. So it's a risky fight for Wilder, Ruiz, and Whyte is definitely a risky fight for Joshua. So you can almost see why there's sort of like that hesitation to make these fights. And Eddie Hearn said he isn't. I've seen the Eddie Hearn interview with Colm out in New York as well, that he said along the lines of that he doesn't think that he's going to sign the contract, Whyte, even though Whyte has came out and said that he's willing to accept it. Listen, like I say, we're going to wake up tomorrow morning and there'll be some other news story that we can talk about. But like you say, boxing right now needs like you say, it filters down heavyweights and then all the way down to the other things. But it seems like the lighter weights are showing the heavyweights how to do it and getting these fights made. And talking about the lighter weights, again, beautiful segue by myself. Talking about the lighter weights and getting the fights done is young Sonny Edwards against Bam Rodriguez. Eddie Hearn has delivered for Sonny. I'll give Eddie Hearn his props. He delivered for Sonny. He said he would get him the Bam fight, and look, boom, we're in.
Definitely. I really can't wait for this fight. I think the build-up is going to be excellent. And what I like about what Sonny's done, and which is so different, and it's underestimated how hard it is to do, because the smaller weights don't get the normal attention. Mm-hmm. They don't get the coverage that the heavyweights do. And even like the likes of the welterweights, which over the past 15 to 20 years has become its own glamour division. But what I like about what Sonny's done is he's used his own tools, and he knows that he's made himself into a celebrity. He's treated himself as his own entity. He's out on Twitter entertaining people. He's undefeated in the ring, and he's undefeated on Twitter, Sonny Edwards. Mm-hmm. And he's got into a position where he can get these massive fights. And a mate of mine yesterday, who's a very, very, very casual boxing fan, probably watches 4 fights a year, he was like, oh yeah, that little Sonny Edwards, he's just signed for a big fight. And I think that shows his pulling power. And I'm really pleased for Sonny that he's going to get in this massive fight, and it's going to be a fantastic fight. Styles make fights, and I don't think it gets much better than this style-wise.
Definitely. If you look at Sonny Edwards, he's only got, 4 knockouts on his record. But Bam Rodriguez, he's 18 fights and 12 knockouts, 13 knockouts, whatever it is. So you've got that puncher against that pure boxer. Now, Sonny does what Sonny does. He is going to make you look silly. He's going to embarrass you in that ring. He's going to frustrate you in that ring. And that is what Sonny Edwards does. But Bam Rodriguez, if you watch Bam and he's got angles on him. He doesn't just come forward. Do you know what I mean? He's got angles as well as Sonny. So this is going to be a battle of the feet. This is going to be the footwork. Who has the best footwork? And Sonny's probably got the best footwork in the light divisions, going all the way up to maybe welterweight. He's definitely got some sweet feet. But Bam Rodriguez has that punching power. Do you know what I mean? He does crack, especially down at that flyweight division. So this is definitely going to be Sonny's hardest test, because like I say, Bam doesn't stand in front of you. He doesn't come forward in a straight line and has you against the ropes and just pop, and let Sonny can move his head. He's going to show Sonny different angles, and Sonny's going to show Bam different angles. And it's going to be I think it'll be more like a chess match to start with. But then I think once Sonny eats a shot from Bam, and I think that's going to get Sonny in, because sometimes when Sonny gets cracked, he likes to fire back quick. Do you know what I mean? He likes to throw punches. So it's going to be a chess match at the beginning, I believe, and I think it's going to I think it's going to catch fire come the middle to later rounds. I'm looking forward to this fight, and it's a fight that Sonny's called for, and he's deserved it, and he's wanting to unify. He's wanting to become undisputed down at that flyweight division. So fair play to him. Fair play to both fighters.
Yeah, I echo your words there, Andrew. I think it will be a fight of 2 halves. I think the first 6 rounds will really be boxing in its purest form, a really pure boxing match. But then as it starts to get dirty, as it starts to get on the inside, I think it can really catch fire. And I think that if it does go to the rounds 9, 10, 11, 12, we could see it really starting to catch fire. And I think we could be in for an explosive finish to that fight if it does go the distance.
Yeah, man. Like I say, it's another one of them fights that the boxing fans have been asking for. It might not be as big a profile as like a Tank Davis, Garcia, or Crawford and Spence, but it's still en route on that path to seeing an undisputed in that division. Like I said to you, I've been probably said the last 3 or 4 episodes that each division needs that undisputed fighter. I'm sick and tired of having 4 champions in one division. We need to see who the top dog is. And it's the top dog. If there's 4 belts in that division, then there should be one guy holding all four belts, sitting at the top. So then now we know. It's all good having 4 world champions, but who's number 1? You know what I mean? Then it just becomes opinions. He's number 1. He holds IBF. He's number 1 because he holds a WBC. No, he's number 1 because he's got the Ring magazine. The only way you find out is if you get them in the ring and fight each other. And I think Sonny's called for it. Sonny's always wanted it, and he's not scared to call out the bigger names in the division. We're seeing it with Spence Crawford now. Like we said last week, we're starting to see these undisputed fights happening, and I think that's great for boxing. And fair play to Sonny Edwards and Ban Rodriguez, because I think, like you said, a fight or 2 halves. Watch defeat. I think this is going to be an absolute dance to the first 6 fights, and then obviously it's going to catch fire, which is thing. And Eddie Hearn has delivered like he said he would for Sonny Edwards, and fair play to him.
I think Eddie's made it very clear as soon as he signed Sonny Edwards, and he's been working with Bam for a while before that his intentions is to make an undisputed champion within the next 12 months. And I think he will deliver on that promise, because I think with the smaller weights, it's easier to get those big fights on. I think it's easier to make an undisputed champion, maybe because there is less money in those divisions. And then, excuse me. And then with the same with the females, we see a lot of female undisputed champions, because I think it's easier to make these fights. And I think Eddie Hearn's seen an opportunity in that weight division, and thinking now that he can produce an undisputed champion, and those are the nights that him as a promoter, us as fans, live for. And I hope we get to see Sonny Edwards with all 4 belts and that Ring magazine around his waist within the next 12 months.
And I think we will. Like you say, just the quick finish on this one. Obviously, the females in the light divisions, there's less money there, like you said, but also the pool of talent isn't there. I mean, the pool of talent is there. It's just not a deep pool, if that makes sense. It's not like the welterweights where there's fighters upon fighters. There's 10, 12, 15 of them. The featherweights, 10, 15 of the heavy. You know what I mean? It's a small pool of talent, just not a deep pool of talent. So it is easier to make these fights. So hopefully we can see these fights, like you said. But again, I think that's a wrap, Joe. I mean, I've got a show next week. I'll be in Manchester next week for the Savannah Marshall Cruz fight. You'll be in Sheffield for the Dalton Smith Sam Maxwell, I believe. So
yeah, looking forward to that one.
So Sunday morning we'll have something to talk about other than just the news. We'll talk about the shows we've been at. We'll be on the ground for a change, which is good. But other than that, what you got planned for the rest of the day, Joe?
I'm actually going to an ex-boxers charity cricket match now.
What's cricket, mate?
It's something with a bat and ball, I think. I don't have the slightest clue about cricket, but I'll go there, see some of the old boxers, maybe get a bit of content. It should be good, mate. Nice and local as well.
Oh, good stuff, mate. Good stuff. I'm just going to sit here and just chill, because it's starting to rain here in Scotland. We're back to the old sunny Scottish weather, so I'm going to sit here and chill and get ready for Monday morning, back in the gym training. So, and listen, I'll see you next Sunday, mate. Enjoy Sheffield.
Yep. Until then, I'll see you next Sunday. Make sure you're watching Talk Smart with Pugh and McCart on YouTube, Spotify, all your social media platforms. Sunday night, it's the place to be. Forget about Glastonbury. It's all about Talk Smart and Pugh and McCart on this Sunday evening.
7 p.m. You heard it here. Right, Joe, have a good rest of the weekend, mate. I'll speak to you soon.
You too, mate. See you next week.
Cheers, mate.
Because I refuse to not be first.
Do we do enough? Well, I never shut up about it.
It must have been about 17, 16, 17. We nicked their guilt rings. Right, the bouncers' guilt rings.
This is no good for me. That's the reality. If you want the honest truth, and I see it every day.